Let's start digging into how you can customize tones with bias. Now before we get started, let me give you a little bit of advice. Bias is an incredibly sophisticated amp modeling system, and there's a lot of depth to it and a lot of parameters that you can tweak, and frankly it can be a little overwhelming when you first get started. My suggestion is to start with one of the factory presets. These are all divided by style and genre, so pick one that gets you in the neighborhood of the tone that you're looking for. Once you've picked a tone that you like, then you can switch into bias mode and you can start to play with each of the individual parts of the entire signal path. Now once you're in here, each of these portions of the signal path also have their own presets. So while you can get in and start dialing knobs in and tweaking everything bit by bit, I would suggest starting with a preset first. Now the key elements that will affect the kind of clean tone you get will be your choice of tone stack, power amp, cabinet, and a little bit of EQ. Let's look at these sections and some of the presets that are available. So the specific tone I have in mind is going for sort of a warm, kind of Pat Metheny jazz sound. So I'm going to get myself in the ballpark by picking an amp preset that I like and then working my way through some of the presets in bias mode. I'm going to start by picking this British 900 clean, and I can either tap this button over on the right hand side or I can just tap the preset again and it'll take me right into bias mode. Let's take a look first at the tone stack and some of the presets that we have available. Now the tone stack maps roughly to the tone controls on the front of the amplifier, and a tone stack preset is really the combination of a tone topology as well as the settings for the knobs that go with that. And a topology are really just the different kinds of tone controls that various amp manufacturers have come up with over the years. Let me just work through a couple of these and see if I find one that I like. Now you will see descriptions for these, and in some cases they may point you to a genre that's not what you're looking for, but I find it still worth listening to them because you may find one that surprises you and actually gives you the tone you're looking for. Let's move on. Let's try British OR tone. I like that. It's got a little crispiness to it, but it's pretty clean. Let's try one more. Let's try classic clean. No, I think I like that British OR tone better. So we'll stick with that. Now let's go take a look at the cabinet and mic choices that we have. Now at the moment, what I have rigged up is an SM57 mic'd off-center on a 4x12 Celestion cabinet. Now 4x12 cabinet doesn't sound very jazzy to me, so let's try a different speaker cabinet selection and see if we come up with something a little jazzier sounding. I'm going to scroll up here and choose 2x12 Jazz Clean. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, I like that. Let's try one more just to check out our options. Let's try 2x12 Black Duo. It's a little brighter. I'm going to go with the 2x12 Jazz Combo. Now let's look at the mic level. So what I have right now is a 57 off center. Now I can tap and drag this 57 and put it right in the center. Let's hear what that sounds like. Not bad. Let's try backing it up a little bit and putting a little air between the mic and the speaker. And for that, I'm going to go over to this grid area here, and this is sort of your top-down view. That sounds pretty good. Now this section also offers another mic possibility, and that's an AKG 414. Let's hear what that sounds like. Now just for fun, let's move that 414 closer up to the speaker and listen for the tonal difference. I think I like the sound of that. Let's go over and take a look at the transformer, which is the final stage of gain before the signal hits your speaker. Let's start with dynamic. That sounds interesting. I like the sound of that. Now you'll notice here that you'll see that there are some controls here that look similar to what you'd see in a compressor. And this is where Bias has modeled the sag effect that you often get in the power amp or the final output stages of the amp in tube amps. And a lot of this almost has more to do with feel than with sound. So it really helps to put on some good headphones or run this through some good speakers so that you can really get the feel to match with the sound. Let's try slight comp and see what we think of that. It's got a little bit of dirt to it. This is also where you'll notice that the levels might change a little bit of the final output, so you might have to tweak those as you go along. Let's stick with dynamic. I like that. All right, now that we're here, let's go take a look at some of the specific things we can tweak. Let's go take a look at the preamp section. Now in here I have a lot of things I can play with. Now fortunately I have some nice presets to work with first. So let's start with Bright Tube Preamp. Let's hear how that sounds. It's a little bright. It's not exactly what I'm looking for, but you know, truth in advertising. Let's try Glassy Tube. Okay, I like that. So let's take a look at all the different things that the presets are affecting. First, there are two sets of filter controls that bracket the preamp tubes. So you can filter the tone going into the preamp tubes and then you can tweak it again on the way out. You also have the ability to choose different tubes in each of these stages. Now you can change these tubes in two different ways. You can either tap on the tube directly, or you can tap on the model number that you see and you'll get a short menu of the available options. And again, this is a good place where it's good to just play a little riff and then test out the different combinations. So let's start with the input stage 2, which we have set to the classic 12AX7, and let's just hear the difference of the three options that we have. That feels like it got a little thinner. Sounds thinner still. I'm going to keep the 12AX7s. Now let's tweak the cathode follower tube and see which ones of those we like best. Alright, I think I like the 12AT7s there the best. Let's play with the high end on the way out. So we'll do post high, and I'm going to just take it down a notch. I just want to tame those pick transients a little bit. Alright, now it sounds like we're getting a little bit of breakup in that early stage, so I'm going to turn down the gain here. Watch the tubes. See how they dim a little bit? Watch what happens when I jack these back up to 11. Look at that, glow hotter than a fire. All right, let's bring it down to 5 and try that. And I may need to adjust my final output just so I can compare correctly. All right, I like that pretty well. Now let's go back over to the power section and let's tweak some of the options that we have there. Let's start by swapping out some of the tubes and trying the differences. Let's just step through each combination. Not bad. All right, I like that. That's a little thin. All right. I think that I like these 6v6 GTs the most. Now you see here that you have other parameters, including how we want to bias the tubes. Let's take these final presence and resonance controls. Let's switch them over to vintage and play with those and see how they sound. I'm going to knock the presence back a little bit and bring the resonance up a little bit. Now remember, once you get this tone dialed in, you're just working with an amp tone. So if you're trying to chase a particular sound, you're going to have to isolate in your mind the amp tone from the other effects and the room sounds that may be in play. So remember, you can take this tone straight out of bias and export it right into Jam Up, and from there you can start to combine it with other pedals to really finalize that tone.